Welcome to Some Stutterla,
Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast.
It's about communicating differently.
I'm Paul.
I'm Laura.
I'm Greg, and I'm a person who stutters.
In today's episode, we're going to see Greg having a chat with Dr. Satyendra Srivastava.
Excellent pronunciation of Dr. Srivastava's name. Took us a long time to get the pronunciation right, not because it's a difficult name, but just because it's a name that we're not used to pronouncing in North America. So we had a little bit of a workshop this morning behind the scenes, and I think we got it.
For a person who stutters, I found his name to be what I consider a $64 difficult word for me to say and pronounce. So Dr. Satyendra Srivastava.
Yeah.
Nice work, Greg.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Dr. Satyendra Srivastava is a medical doctor. He is also an individual that stutters. He has been stammering since he was 5 or 6 years old, and he realized earlier in India that there's a desperate need for speech therapy, SLPs, but unfortunately because of the limited availability of SLPs, he joined a group which is now the Indian Stammering Association, and the Indian Stammering Association is a self-help group. They really focus on self-therapy, and it's amazing how large it has grown. And I'm so impressed that it's all volunteer one, and there's a definite commitment to. They acknowledge that there's no cure for stuttering, so they're living with their stuttering. They're finding ways to manage their stuttering, and I think it's wonderful. So
great. And it started almost 25 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really grown from something, quite small and grassroots into something that helps so many people today.
For sure. And the focus on destigmatization is a strong element of the mandate for the TISA, the Indian Stammering Association, and it's in line with a number of online communities and even the Newfoundland and Labrador Stuttering Association. So credit to them for building such a following and working on the hard negative stigma that's associated with stuttering and communicating differently.
Absolutely. And they have a bit of an online challenge related to that happening now, right?
So if you go to their website, the Indian Stammering Association, or their Instagram page, which is TISA_India, they have something called the Speak Up Challenge. It's called, and they say, let's speak up together. If you stammer, you know how situations can feel. But what if we face those fears one step at a time? What they want you to do is to record a short video of you as a person who stutters or a person who stammers, speaking in a situation that feels tough, like in front of a group or at a public place. Then challenge a friend to do the same.
And if you do, please link to it in a comment on this video so that we can see what you've been up to and promote you too.
And the hashtag for that is Speak Up Challenge.
Let's tune in now to Greg and Dr. Srivastava as they talk about TISA and Dr. Srivastava's journey.
So again, Doctor, welcome to Some Stutter Law. So, it's amazing. I've been doing a lot of Googling about you, Doctor, and I'm very impressed with the information that you've sent me. You're a very humble man. I wasn't aware that you're so involved involved in the stuttering community, and thank you very much for all your advocacy and support work for the stuttering community, Doctor. So, Doctor, would you like to share a little bit about your history as a stammerer? Do you prefer stammerer or stutterer?
In India, because of British colonial influence, we use stammering. But to me, both the words mean same. Probably I'll be using stammering, sometimes stuttering also.
Okay.
So, as a child, I mean, now after doing some research, I'm beginning to see that my life as a stammerer was no different than the life of so many other stammerers. Earlier, I used to think that I had a very unique childhood, unique experiences as a stammerer. But now I'm beginning to see that we all have got same kind of stories. We all had trouble buying bus tickets, train tickets. I also had problem attending roll calls, saying yes, sir. That was a big challenge. Buying a bus ticket was a big challenge. But to go all the way back to my childhood, my first episode of stammering was totally spontaneous and pretty harmless, but it left me confused that why words are not coming out. My father was in the other room, and from there he said, "What's the time?" And the clock was right in front of me, and I could say, and I could clearly see that's 3:30, and I was supposed to have said "Sade teen" in Hindi, and the words just did not come. And so I was a little confused. What happened? And then my father came into the room and he looked at me a little quizzically, a little surprised, and then he went out. He didn't say anything, he didn't make any comment. And then the whole thing started. Then I began reacting to it. As we all know that to borrow a example from my friend Dr. Amit Bajaj, if you are driving a cycle and if the chain is getting stuck, your first response is to apply more pressure, more force. So this is some kind of inbuilt mechanism that when we are doing something, and if that is not happening, we apply force. So then I began applying force, and then of course very soon I became a covert stutterer because I also had a very sensitive nature. I just could not cope with criticism and uh, and constant interruptions. I mean, somebody in the family will say, "What's the big hurry? Calm down. Take a breath. Say it again." So with all these constant interruptions, I said it's better to not to say the word or to be quiet. So I became rather quiet and
Mm.
shy, and I also became a very good. Um, I became very good at switching the words because I was studying English at the same time, and so I could come up with a lot of synonyms. So sometime I'll switch languages. So if I cannot say the word in Hindi, I will say the same word in English. And of course, invariably, it created a very funny scenario. But somehow I managed. So I grew up becoming a covert stutterer with huge iceberg under the water, shame, guilt, feelings of constant fear, impending doom, that something bad is going to happen very soon. And then in my teenage years, I was quite sort of oppressed by this feeling that who am I? And I sort of felt as if I am totally alien to the world and also to myself. And later on, I realized that in psychology, it is called loss of self. You just do not know who you are. Why? Because you have pinned you have pinned your entire identity on just one thing, one function, fluency. And when that is not there, you are totally confused. So up and down, life went on, and I kept on exploring other things. Since I was spending a lot of time alone, I became very fond of reading. So at pretty young age, I was reading a lot of books, and I also became very fond of uh, those sports which where you are all by yourself, like trekking, climbing. So I was doing these kind of things. That's how I grew up, and for a long time I suffered from a lot of these guilt that by stammering I have brought shame to my family. By stammering I have brought shame to other doctors just like me. And so all these things were going on. And finally, in 2008, when TISA started, a big change came over me, and I decided to address it frontally, face to face, deal with the problem, confront it, talk about it. I began writing a blog, and that's how my recovery started.
You mentioned that you explored activities that were alone, or you can do it by yourself. And was that part of was that part of your disappearing in one sense? Like you want to be alone? Would you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I think what you said just now was a very good summation, good understanding of the situation. I just disappeared. I disappeared in the books. I disappeared in my nature walks. I disappeared on my solo treks. But these things indirectly helped me, and later on, I came back on the scene with all the power. So, so when I started TISA, by that time I knew who I was and what I want to do and how to go about it.
Okay, so doctor, so you are the founder of the international, the Indian Stammering Association. So, do you want to elaborate what your journey was establishing this? Because I mean, this has been established now since 1983, and this, this is quite the feat. And I'm so impressed with it because you offer a lot of support, a lot of resources, and everything. So, do you want to share with our listening audience about the whole mandate?
So what happened that around this time I was working in the villages as a social worker. I was counseling people. I was listening to people's problem. I was working on women's issues also, and I began to see that if I've got a problem, then I'm the right person to do the advocacy for that problem. If I hire somebody else from outside, if people come from outside, and then they cannot really represent my issue in the proper light. So one thing I understood that if stammerers have to change the scenario, change the scene, they cannot depend on goodness of a therapist or the provisions of a government. They have to carry their burden, and they have to be the at the forefront of the change. And so therefore I met with some other stammerers, and all of us were keyboard warriors. We were hiding behind our computers, and we were talking all the wonderful things. And then
Keyboard warriors. That's the first time I've heard that. It makes sense, though.
yeah, and we were hiding behind our monitors. But one day I realized that this is not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything for me as a stammerer, nor is it going to change the society. And so therefore we all one day met face to face in Mumbai, these 8 or 9 people, and we decided that we should start a association and do something about it. So then we started the Indian Stammering Association. I started a blog, and the one thing which I discovered was that if I ask other people to be open about their stammering, I must lead by example. So I began writing about my own stammering experiences in this stammering blog. And then other people began leaving their comments, and then gradually a whole community came into existence. And that is how we call it TISA, TISA, TISA. So
Hmm.
TISA came into existence, and then we began working in through many small help groups, and then uh, uh, and uh, and gradually these groups started all over India. And then one day a friend of mine said we should have a get together once a year in some central location, and then we started our national get together. We call it national conference because some people insist upon reading their paper there, so we call it conference. But actually,
Oh, okay.
but actually the spirit of the meeting is more like a family get together. And I came up with a one liner. I said, because at that time I was studying the research behind stammering, and I came across this that there are genes which play a role in causation of stammering. So I said, if stammering has got a biological basis, then all stammerers are a biological family. And as a family, we should get together in some central location at least once a year. So that event started and that became extremely popular. So now we get like 110 people. Recently, we concluded this national conference in Jaipur, and there were about 10 women, about 100 young men, and they all had a royal great time. How will Canadians say that? They had a whale of a time?
A whale of a time, or or a whale of the time. But the way the Newfoundlanders say is a time had by all.
Yeah.
A time had by all. Yeah. Oh,
So,
great,
yeah,
great.
so we had a wonderful time. And so that is what we are doing now. We are focusing on, uh, we are, we are focusing on people who stammer. We are not focusing on therapists. We are not focusing on Cure or Speech Easy or Maguire or this or that program. We simply get together stammerers and we tell them some simple techniques like bouncing or prolongation. And we always begin with voluntary stammering and some
Mm.
pausing. So basically, these four techniques, and we say that if you accept your stammering, 90% of the battle is won because then the struggle is no more there. When you've accepted that, okay, I will sometimes stammer, I may go in a block, then chances are your struggle will be much less. And then you'll be able to stammer easily in a forward fashion and you will move through your sentences rather than stopping totally or going back. So our focus is more on the community building, building the community, not researching the latest cure or the fluency techniques or this program or that program. I believe in West these things are emphasized a lot. But in TISA, we simply say that if you accept your stammering and if you're able to communicate, if you're understood by the other person, then you don't have to worry about anything.
Mm. Yeah, doctor, when you when you talk about acceptance of stuttering, and now I mean this, I agree totally that I mean the key to stuttering is one has to accept it. One I shouldn't say have to. One has to work towards acceptance. However, that is a red flag for a lot of people, much like myself, because I mean that puts a lot of pressure on on trying to accept one's stutter, and I mean, for many people who stutter, it takes years, and some people unfortunately, never, never fully accept stuttering. So how how does TISA work? Discuss this journey of acceptance. What are the do you have principles, or is just all part of self therapy?
I try to define acceptance in this way that accepting this moment the way it is. For example, if I am hungry, if I am thirsty, and you offer me a glass of water, you ask me, "Are you thirsty?" It may be inappropriate for me to accept my thirst and say, "No, no, I'm okay." But the common sense says that if I'm thirsty, I should say, "Yes, I'm thirsty. Give me a glass of water." So stammering is so we talk about acceptance of stammering in the same way. That this moment, if you're stammering, if you have stammered since childhood, and if you know that you might stammer again, then you should accept all these things as a matter of fact, as a very practical aspect of our life. And I always give the example. I always say that acceptance is not only acceptance of stammering, but acceptance of other issues of life. Like I know that one day I'll be dead. Does that mean that I stop going to gym or stop eating healthy? I know that one day I'll be very old. Does that mean that I should stop living? So in the same way, I say that accept stammering, but don't accept poor communication. So, so the pressure, so So there's no pressure that you have to accept your stammering and remain as you are. I always say that acceptance and resignation are very different things. You are accepting this moment because you are stammering, okay, but you are also not accepting poor communication. So whatever you can do to improve your communication, it could be speaking slow, it could be taking a breath, it could be maintaining eye contact, it could also be preparing for a presentation. Whatever it takes, do that so that your communication is efficient and uninterrupted. At the end of the day, fluency is a aesthetic quality of speech. When somebody speaks fluently, he looks very beautiful, very impressive. But the functional aspect of speech is to get the meaning across. And therefore, one should always focus on the core of the speech, which is function, which is getting the ideas across. If I'm able to get my idea across to you, in spite of stumbling on a word here and there or blinking a couple of times, I should be okay with that. Nobody should try to dissuade me from that by saying, unless you become fluent, you have not achieved your goal. So in TISA, we always say accept stammering, but don't accept poor communication. And for improving communication, we suggest and offer a variety of things. Not only spoken communication, but written communication, the body language. All those things are important. So nobody's
Oh, definitely, doctor.
yeah. So nobody's under
Sorry.
pressure. Nobody's under pressure to fight their stammering or to accept their stammering as if it is some kind of given which they cannot change. I mean, people can change a lot of things in their life, but one has to decide what you want to change and what you want to learn to accept. I mean, I can buy a wig. I'm giving I'm giving a rather crude example, but at my age, I could go for maybe for hair transplant, or I could buy a costly wig. But why should I spend my money on all those things when I think that I'm totally fine with my bald head? So in the same way, I ask people to accept stammering. Don't fight against it. Don't run away from it. Don't be ashamed about it, and continue working on your communication.
So, doctor, where are you now with with your level of of acceptance? Where are you now? Like, do you feel comfortable, or is that not the appropriate word, or are you okay with your stammering?
I'm okay with my stammering whenever it happens, and it happens. I mean, now maybe it's my lucky day, or no, maybe now I'm in my comfort zone. But if I'm invited to a police station for investigation or interrogation, I'm sure
There's lot of stress, a lot of stress.
I'll go in a lot of blocks. But I no more react to that. I no more feel ashamed about it. And but on the other hand, I always remind myself and others in TISA that acceptance of stammering is a small part of a bigger acceptance. It's a subset of a bigger acceptance, and that bigger acceptance is about accepting the life as it is, accepting of the world as it is, the neighbor as they are, or the barking dog of the neighbor. Accept that, since you can't change those things. and I mean, reach a state of peace with these things which you cannot change. For example, old age, death, sickness, gain and loss. All these things will happen, and so one has to accept the bigger picture of life, that life is as it is. And and I began to see these things much more clearly when I lost my partner in 2019. Then I began to see that life is this too. There is death, there is birth, there is gain, there is a loss, there is block, there is fluency. They are rich. Sometimes you are very rich. Sometimes you cannot pay your next meal. So these things will happen. These things are there. instead of hating them and instead of running away from them, I think one has to accept these things. But that does not mean resignation. It doesn't mean that I should not go to gym. I should not take care of my
Mm-hmm.
health. It doesn't mean that if I'm sick, I should not go to a hospital.
So, doctor, have have you taken speech therapy over the years, or what was your experience if you have?
Many years ago, in 2003, I went to a speech therapist. He was a proper fluency specialist. And in the one session, the when he told me about his fees, I was quite surprised because I am also a medical doctor, but as a GP, my fee was never 3,000 rupees for a meeting, for a session. So I paid something like 3,000 rupees to this person, and then I began to think that how many of us can afford to pay 3,000 rupees per session.
The average speech therapist charges here in the province about 100 to 120, if not higher, an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah. It's like $36.
Oh, okay,
So
true.
compared to cost of living in India, even from that standard, it was quite a bit. And then I began thinking that in the meantime, I was doing my own, research and study, and I realized that stammering, nobody can offer you a cure. For example, if I go for my cataract surgery, I'll be paying a good amount of money there also. But at the end of the day, I'm sure that he will remove the cataract and put in a artificial lens, which will work. But that kind of
Hmm.
guarantee nobody can give. In fact, nobody should. And
Definitely.
with that reality, on the table, I felt that self-help is a much better option for Indians. So therefore, in
Hmm.
TISA, in Indian Stammering Association, we promote self-help, and at the same time, we don't stop anybody who wants to go for speech therapy. So we have
Hmm.
this kind of a white paper on this, that if you want to go for speech therapy, you are most welcome, but find out all the details, the fee structure. Do you have to pay it in advance, or do you have to pay it on a per session basis? Or what are the policy regarding refund if you do not benefit by it? What happens if there's a relapse within 6 months? So we advise people to become fully aware of all these things, then step into it. But within TISA, we promote self-help. And
Hmm.
I personally believe that whatever therapists are teaching, common people can also do that. I mean, in fact, in TISA, whatever we are teaching, we have learned from speech therapists only. I took a lot of stuff from this American speech therapist. Uh, I can't get his name right now, but he's a very nice person. He has published some books, and some of his techniques are available on YouTube also. And so, learning from there, implementing it in our self-help groups was not difficult.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we we have chosen to go on that path of self exploration and helping ourselves.
Hmm. So, doctor, what is the response from the uh, from the speech language community about about the Indian Stuttering Association stressing uh, self therapy. What would some of the reaction be now, or have you experienced that?
Actually, most of therapists have sort of looked at it very favorably. In fact,
Okay.
there is a associate professor from the Department of Communications from Emerson College, Boston, Dr. Amit Bajaj. Uh, some years back, he got in touch with TISA, saying that I'm a PWS and I also want to volunteer with TISA. So he's helping us, and he's actively participating in our online training programs. In fact, I've learned a lot from him also, like pullouts, cancellations, gentle onsets. A lot of things I've learned from him, and he teaches us in our online sessions. So I can say that anybody, the therapist have been they've been able to understand that what we are trying to do is uh, is something good, and it could actually lighten their burden, because in India therapists are very few, and they cannot teach so many people at the same time, and not so many people will actually go to them because of their own constraints. So self-help group like TISA can fulfill this need. Of course, one or two people have been rather critical, but by and large, people who take time to understand and spend some time with TISA, they realize that we are doing something good.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we don't charge any fees because everybody is a volunteer in TISA. Nobody takes any salary. Our self-help groups are coordinated by people who are volunteers who didn't charge any fees. So all that make sure that we never get drawn into any controversy related to money. Who is benefiting financially by this? That never arises
Mm-hmm.
in TISA.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, I have also taken speech therapy over the years as well, and I mean, this, my experience with speech therapy has really sort of helped me because I used to have, well, I shouldn't say used to, I still have a severe stutter, but so I class myself as a severe stutterer. And but the advantage is before I had taken speech therapy, and this was through the Toronto Speech and Stuttering Institute and this is called the Fluency Plus program. And prior to taking this therapy, I wouldn't be able to say my name without having all of the blocks, the repetitions, prolongations. I mean, just for me to say my name would take me at least 5 minutes. So when I compare to myself then where I am now, my journey of sort of uh, self, self acceptance or managing my stuttering. I remember when I first started therapy, my focus was on fluency, and I thought if I was able to control my stuttering, all my problems would go away. And that didn't work. But anyhow, one thing about the Speech and Stuttering Institute, they were very forthright with me and said, Greg, there's no cure for stuttering. There's no cure. And since I've been coming, since my experience with the Speech and Stuttering Institute, with my involvement with the stuttering community, I have found that there's such a paradigm shift now from a clinical model to more of a counseling model. So it's more they're focusing on it's almost like the focusing on the stuttering with the ease. So it's focusing on the difficult areas in stuttering is more problematic. And I think you're saying the same thing, like with the self therapy.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
I will. I mean, I will also go for therapy if it is available and affordable. So West is a very different model. There, I believe in the West, most of the diseases are covered under insurance. In India, things are different. We have to pay out of our pockets, and
Mm,
and of course, I myself am a trained doctor, so I don't, underestimate professional help. And for example, if I've got an eye problem, I will definitely beg, borrow, and go to a proper doctor. In the Even in TISA, if somebody says that I want to go for therapy, we always encourage that person. We never criticize or discourage that person. We simply say, if you can afford it, go for it. Only thing, make sure that he's a fluency specialist. Fluency specialist, not every speech therapist is a fluency specialist. So we educate people to get the most out of therapy, and we also tell them that going for therapy you should be ready for a long haul. There may be relapses. It may take a lot of time, so be ready for that. So, so with all those barring those provisions, for regular people in India, it's I think that self-help is a lot more affordable because we don't charge any money.
Hmm.
And second thing is,
Definitely.
they you don't have to leave your city because fluency specialist is limited to big cities, big metro cities in India. But somebody coming from, from a small cities, he may never have time to go to this big city for a long treatment schedule. So therefore, we are promoting this idea of self-help groups, and we always tell them that whatever we have learned from therapists only, and uh,
Mm.
and we invite a therapist to come and supervise us, help us, participate in our events, like Dr. Amit Bajaj from Boston. He has been regularly helping us with our trainings and giving us feedback about what we can do better. So I don't see self-help and speech therapy as as two contrasting things. They can
Mm.
complement each other. They can help each other, and I personally have learned a lot from them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great, doctor. That's great. Now, how does your self therapy focus, address the below the surface of the iceberg, the emotional component? Although although the self therapy supports the prolongation techniques, the breathing techniques, but how does TISA address the below the surface emotional
Yeah,
component?
whenever we get together, uh, uh, we we conduct those little activities like the the weirdest stuttering competition, those kind of things, the longest stuttering competition. So we'll invite people. We all come. We'll make a group, and we will each one of us will do a voluntary stammering, and we'll see who can last the longest. And that person will get some kind of Cadbury chocolate or
Okay, that sounds good.
some little reward. In addition to that, we encourage people to write their stuttering tales and journeys on our blog. There are a lot of stories by young people where they talk about their failed campus interview, or the last time when their girlfriend blocked them on all social media sites. Why? Because they could not say chow mein. They couldn't order chow mein, or they couldn't say this or that, and the relationship broke. So they are encouraged to write these things in open public space. In addition to this, whenever we conduct an online training session, we ask people to keep a journal, write a journal, and if they and some of them don't mind sharing their journal with us, then we are able to read their journal and give them feedback. So we are
Hmm.
actively encouraging them to recall painful events, talk about it, and then reframe it, laugh about it. I remember I myself shared my own story in TISA many years ago about how I was stuttering, and my sister, she was totally confused. She thought I'm having an epileptic fit, and
Okay.
she ran to my mother, and I also followed like an innocent child, wondering what's the matter. And I saw my sister saying to my mother, "Mother, oh my God, just see what he's doing. What will happen to him?" She was very concerned. She thought I'm going to
Hmm.
die. So we share these stories again and again and again. And a time comes when you are able to tell the story with a little laugh,
True.
with a great
Well, one has to laugh, doctor. Definitely,
yes,
definitely.
yes.
Reading your bio, there's there's a strong sense of spirituality to it, and so as I was reading that, are you on a spiritual quest of some sort? Do.
Actually, we all are, but many of us do not understand that. Many of us think that I'm only looking for a job. But actually, deep down, he's looking for happiness, fulfillment. And that is a spiritual quest. And in that sense, I will say all of us are on a spiritual quest. We may or may not be aware of that. And I certainly am. And in my darkest days, when stammering was really causing me a lot of pain, I began to, ask this question that who am I when I'm silent? Because it is quite obvious that I'm a stutterer when I stutter. I'm a fluent person, normal person when I don't stutter. But who am I when I'm totally quiet, when I close my eyes, when there's no one to listen to me, when I'm all by myself? Who am I? What defines me? What defines my essence? Who am I at my core when I take away all the functions, listening, talking, reading, researching, counseling? When you take away all these functions, then who am I? So this search has been going on for quite some time, and it deepened after I lost my partner. We never had kids, and after her departure, I realized that being all alone can be very painful, and it can also be a great opportunity. So I'm now pushing it into that direction. So I'm spending a lot of time in monasteries and alone, and doing my own kind of practices. So, but some time back I wrote somewhere that stammering is disfluency, stammering is a break in the flow, stammering is this, stammering is that, stammering is a genetic diversity, etc., etc. And at the bottom of this long list, I said, stammering is also a portal into a different world of exploration. We can explore ourselves. Who am I beyond my stammering? But normally what happens that our journey, our search, our exploration stops the moment we become a little fluent. We go to this therapy, that therapy, we join self-help group, now we are talking somewhat better, and our search stops. But many of us continue. We keep on asking, okay, I am fluent. So what? So stammering is also a portal into a secret world. It's like Alice falling in the hole.
Doctor, do you have any last words to share before we leave?
I just want to say this thing that stammering can be anything we can make out of it. We can make out of it an opportunity. We can make out of it a problem to solve. We can turn it into anything. It all depends on us, and also on our community, because alone we are pretty powerless. But in a community, we can achieve a lot, and therefore I wish everyone, all the stuttering communities all over the globe, all the best, all the power, all the creativity, and all the courage. Thank you so much.
And we're back. What an interesting interview. I really thought it was interesting, in particular, how they referred to themselves as transfluencers.
Which is a really important word, because transfluencers take the path of self-help and transcend beyond the stammering mindset, and now are helping others.
Right, and it's actually based on the work of Dr. Loriente. He's a Spanish researcher, Spanish scholar, who coined the term transfluency as a way to replace the word stuttering. Stuttering had a bunch of negative connotations, although some would argue that the negative connotations are being removed, and a positive orientation is given to the term stuttering. But transfluency, the idea behind that is that stuttering is not something that needs to be medicalized. It's not a speech pathology. It's its own unique way of speaking and communicating. And so the word transfluency is used to describe that kind of ideology behind that.
And to be honest, I've never heard the word bouncing before.
Right. Right.
And bouncing is, I had to Google it. It's similar to volunteer stuttering. Stuttering on purpose, but there's a way of sort of easing into it. And I think that may be why some of the SLPs are involved. And they also work on their breathing and relaxation exercises.
Right.
So I think there is a role for SLPs, but it's not heavily focused on the clinical.
Right. And as you said, Greg, and as you continue to say, it's continuing to manage stuttering without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah.
And it's so true, Paul, is as people have difficulty understanding this, that, I mean, I'm a strong supporter of speech therapy because having taken the Fluency Plus program through the Speech and Stuttering Institute in Toronto has laid the foundation for me, and it has helped me to stutter easier. And that's a hard mindset for some people to get around. You stutter easier, so when I'm having difficulty with a block or something, or letter, I'm able to ease into it.
And groups like TISA, what they're doing is providing options for people who stutter, where in the past there have been no options, right? So you can stutter freely, you can work on targets, you can, communicate in the style that is most comfortable to you, and that's essentially a good message for everybody.
But the focus is on, don't let stuttering control you. Be able to speak to whoever, whenever, and whoever you want to. But don't let stuttering control you.
I think that's a great message. Don't let stuttering control you. But do like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything else. Some Stutter Law is brought to you today with help from Memorial University, the Newfoundland Labrador Stuttering Association, and a whole team of volunteers behind the scenes, without whom today's episode would not have been possible.